David, these files are interesting. I got a little bit of a chance to sift through them, and I've been covering this story for 20 years, and these new records opened the door to a first for me. They led me to a witness who came face to face with D.B. Cooper.
There was trouble on this plane before it landed at SeaTac. A passenger who boarded hours earlier in Portland for the hop to Seattle had waved down a crew member during the short flight. "Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase," said a handwritten note. Now in Seattle, his demands to take to the air again are met with delays by Northwest Air ground crews who are having problems refueling the plane. "He's getting antsy, and that's our problem right now," says the nervous pilot in this transcript of a radio transmission with the control tower.
And I was talking to the cockpit crew, and they were very agitated, and they wanted another truck.
This was the man behind the wheel of one of 3 fuel trucks called to refuel Northwest Flight 305.
At the time, by the way, I really didn't know it was a hijacker. I just knew something was going on.
Richard DeCample of Renton was a 26-year-old ramp worker on shift that rainy Thanksgiving Eve 1971. On his most memorable fuel run ever, his tanker truck sputtered.
The first guy they sent out had a partial truck. They sent me out with a partial truck, which malfunctioned in the middle of fueling it. I can't speak for D.B. Cooper, but I know the cockpit crew, there were 3 guys up there, and they knew it was taking too long.
Inside the plane at SeaTac, the hijacker who had bought his $18 ticket using the name Dan Cooper had everything he'd asked for except a fully fueled plane. He'd released all the other passengers in exchange for 4 parachutes and $200,000 cash delivered by the FBI.
And then the cockpit crew informed me that some of the flight attendants were coming down the back stairs and they would need a ride back to operations. And of course they were delighted to be on the truck since they were leaving.
Richard's interview with FBI agents 2 days after the hijacking is part of a trove of original investigative documents that are now available for public viewing. The files were collected by the investigative journalist who authored the 2012 book Skyjack.
When I dug into the case, I thought, man, this guy hijacked a plane in a suit and tie, parachuted out over the most remote part of the world and disappeared, vanished into thin air. I was obsessed immediately.
Jeffrey Gray got rare access to FBI case files while researching his story 10 years ago.
These are the actual 302s. These are the actual minute-by-minute accounts of what actually happened on that night to the best of the FBI's reporting at the time.
Gray's documents include the hijack, a bare-bones FBI narrative written 2 days after the crime that's filled with fascinating facts, handwritten crew notes, and this radio transmission to the crew. After he leaves, the airplane will be blown up. The grim opinion about Cooper's plan from the FAA's chief psychiatrist.
The anxiety level was off the charts.
Gray is putting up all his documents on his true crime website, true.inc. Once registered, he hopes citizen sleuths will read and interact and maybe drum up some new leads. If people look at these documents, what should they be looking for?
You know, these files have never been seen before, and they are rife with information that, I don't know what it might be, but someone out there might. We want people to have access to the materials. We want them to help solve the case with us.
Law officers in 4 western states this evening are searching.
Before Cooper took to the skies again and parachuted into infamy, something happened that put Richard DeCample in the rarest of company. He's one of the very few that saw this famous face in person.
I had hooked up to the airplane and I was under the wing, but I could look up and I could see him looking out, but I'm like, what can he see? I mean, he had pretty dark glasses on. I guess it was kind of fun for me to be involved in it. It was good table talk for a few years.
We're going to put the link to true.inc, the website where you can find those documents and look at them yourself on king5.com. Now, these files are going public, and it may be up to the public, citizen sleuths, to solve this case. Last year, the FBI announced it had closed the case because no more good leads were coming in. They got sick of it, frankly.
Well, they were getting flooded, weren't they?
They were, sure they were.
Yeah. I also remember that earlier this year you reported on these amateur scientists who found evidence that Cooper could have been a Boeing employee. Any more on that?
That's a small scientific team of amateur scientists, and they have narrowed down their search to a particular Boeing contractor in Oregon. But like everything with D.B. Cooper, there is still lots of uncertainty about that theory. I wouldn't call the case solved yet. They're still working on it.
It's quite the mystery.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you.
We'll keep talking about this for decades.
See you in 46. 46 more.